You know what? After 40 years on the bench, I thought I'd seen everything. Rich kids trying to buy their way out of trouble, influential parents making phone calls, expensive lawyers arguing for special treatment. But sometimes, someone shows you a whole new level of arrogance you never imagined. This happened on a Tuesday morning in October. The case should have been routine. 18-year-old Marcus Whitmore cited for reckless driving and destruction of public property. The kid had crashed his Maserati into a city bus stop, destroying the shelter and nearly hitting two elderly people waiting for the bus. But Marcus Whitmore wasn't just any 18-year-old. His father was Harrison Whitmore III, CEO of Whitmore Industries, one of the largest defense contractors in New England, worth about $800 million, owned half downtown Providence's commercial real estate, and apparently believed his money gave him power to control everything, including my courtroom. The Whitmore name was on buildings all over Rhode Island: the Student Center at Brown, the hospital wing, the Family Foundation. From the outside, they looked like a family that understood civic responsibility. But sometimes, the families that give the most publicly expect the most favoritism privately. The morning started normally enough. Marcus came in with his court-appointed attorney, looking appropriately worried about facing consequences for crashing a $60,000 sports car into public property while texting and driving. The damage estimate was $12,000 for the bus stop replacement, plus another $8,000 for street sign repairs and sidewalk reconstruction where the Maserati had jumped a curb. Marcus appeared genuinely nervous, which was appropriate given the seriousness of his charges. He was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt instead of his usual designer streetwear, and he actually looked like a teenager who understood he was in trouble rather than someone expecting his problems to magically disappear. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore," I said as Marcus stood before my bench. "You're charged with reckless driving and destruction of municipal property. How do you plead?" Before Marcus could answer, the courtroom doors flew open. Harrison Whitmore III strode in like he owned the building, wearing a $1,500 suit and the expression of a man who'd never been told no. Behind him walked two other men in expensive suits, probably attorneys or business associates. "Your Honor," Harrison said, not waiting to be recognized, "I'm Harrison Whitmore, Marcus's father. I need to speak with you immediately about this case." I looked at him calmly. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm conducting a hearing. Please take a seat in the gallery, and we'll proceed with your son's case." Harrison stepped closer to my bench. "Judge Caprio, I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding. This case doesn't belong in municipal court. My son's situation requires more sophisticated handling." Sophisticated handling. Translation: he wanted to make this disappear with money and influence. "Mr. Whitmore, your son crashed his vehicle into city property and endangered pedestrians. Municipal court is exactly where this case belongs." Harrison's expression hardened. "Judge, I don't think you fully understand who you're dealing with. Whitmore Industries has contracts with the state worth over $40 million annually. We employ 800 Rhode Islanders. My family has been contributing to this community for 3 generations. Mr. Whitmore, your financial contributions don't affect how I handle cases in my courtroom." Harrison smiled coldly. "Judge Caprio, let me be more direct. I've already spoken with the presiding judge about reassigning this case to someone who better understands the complexities involved when dealing with prominent families. He was telling me he tried to have me removed from his son's case." "Mr. Whitmore, judicial assignments aren't changed because defendants' parents request different judges. They are when the current judge lacks the appropriate experience for cases involving established families with significant community responsibilities." The audacity was breathtaking. Harrison Whitmore was standing in my courtroom in front of my staff and the public, telling me I wasn't qualified to handle his son's case because I didn't show proper deference to wealthy defendants. Mr. Whitmore, please take a seat so we can proceed with your son's hearing. Harrison didn't move. Judge Caprio, I've been informed that Judge Richardson is available to handle this case immediately. I've also been told that Judge Richardson has extensive experience with matters involving established Rhode Island families. Judge Richardson was known for being lenient with wealthy defendants. Harrison had apparently tried to shop for a judge who would give his son special treatment. Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to ask you one more time to take a seat. Judge, I'm trying to save everyone time and embarrassment. My attorneys have prepared documentation showing that this incident was clearly an accident, that Marcus has never had any serious violations, and that appropriate restitution has already been arranged. All lies, but Harrison said them with the confidence of someone who'd been lying successfully for decades. Mr. Whitmore, if you don't sit down immediately, I'll hold you in contempt of court. Harrison laughed, actually laughed. Judge Caprio, I don't think you want to hold a member of the Whitmore family in contempt. That would create complications you're not prepared to handle. He was threatening me, in my own courtroom, in front of witnesses. Mr. Whitmore, you're in contempt of court. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Whitmore to a seat in the gallery. Harrison turned to his son. Marcus, don't say anything. We're leaving. Judge Richardson will handle this appropriately. That's when Marcus spoke up for the first time. Dad, stop. Harrison looked at his son in surprise. Marcus, we're not discussing this here. Dad, Judge Richardson can't handle this case. Why not? Marcus looked at me, then at his father, then down at the floor. Because Judge Richardson is the one who dismissed my other charges. The courtroom went completely silent. Harrison's confident expression faltered. What other charges? I asked. Marcus was sweating now. Dad, you don't know about the other charges because I paid the attorney with the money from my college fund. Harrison's face went pale. What are you talking about? Dad, this isn't my first accident. It's my 7th. I've been arrested 6 times in the past year. DUI, reckless driving, hit and run. Judge Richardson dismissed all of them because the attorney you got me told him about our family's political contributions. The revelation hit Harrison like a physical blow. His son had been lying to him for months while using the family name and money to buy his way out of serious criminal charges. Marcus, what are you saying? I'm saying Judge Richardson can't take this case because he's already on the record dismissing my other cases inappropriately. If this goes to him too, people will start asking questions about why the judge keeps letting me off. I looked at Harrison Whitmore, the man who'd walked into my courtroom 5 minutes earlier, demanding that I be replaced because I wasn't sophisticated enough to handle his family's case, was now learning that his son was a serial offender who'd been manipulating the judicial system with bribes and political influence. Mr. Whitmore, I said, it sounds like your son has some additional information about his legal history that you weren't aware of. Marcus kept talking, apparently relieved to finally tell the truth. Dad, the college fund money you think I've been saving, I spent it all on legal fees. $47,000 to make 6 cases disappear. The attorney said Judge Richardson was family-friendly for people who contribute to the right political campaigns. Harrison looked like he was going to be sick. Marcus, you've been arrested 6 times? 7 times now. Dad, I've been scared to tell you because I knew you'd cut me off. So I just kept paying the attorney with the college money and hoping you wouldn't find out. What were the charges? 2 DUIs, 3 reckless driving, 1 hit and run, and one driving with a suspended license. Harrison sat down heavily in the nearest chair. His plan to have me replaced with a corrupt judge had backfired spectacularly because his corrupt judge had already been covering up his son's extensive criminal record. Your Honor, Marcus said to me, I know my dad tried to get you removed from this case, but honestly, I'd rather have a fair judge who doesn't know about my other arrests than go back to Judge Richardson, who's going to expect more money to keep protecting me. I looked at the paperwork in front of me. What had appeared to be a simple reckless driving case was actually the latest incident in a pattern of dangerous behavior that had been covered up by a combination of family wealth and judicial corruption. Mr. Marcus Whitmore, I said, you're telling this court that you've been arrested 6 previous times for driving-related offenses. Yes, Your Honor. And these cases were dismissed by Judge Richardson after your attorney made payments. Not direct payments, Your Honor. Political contributions to Judge Richardson's campaign and to political action committees that supported him. Harrison finally spoke up. Marcus, stop talking. Dad, I can't keep lying about this. I've been driving drunk, hitting people's cars, running red lights, and speeding through school zones. I could have killed someone. Maybe it's time I actually face consequences instead of buying my way out of them. I'd seen a lot of family drama in my courtroom over the years, but this was different. A father who tried to corrupt my judicial process was learning that his son had already corrupted another judge, and the son was finally ready to face accountability for his actions. Mr. Whitmore, I said to Harrison, a moment ago you told me that your son had never had serious violations. Were you lying, or were you unaware of his arrest history? Harrison was staring at Marcus as he'd never seen him before. I was unaware, Your Honor. Marcus told me this was his first serious incident. Marcus, I said, you understand that lying to your father about your legal problems while using family money to bribe judges is serious misconduct. Yes, Your Honor, I understand that. I also understand that I've been putting people in danger every time I got behind the wheel after drinking or decided to drive recklessly for social media videos. Social media videos. Marcus, you've been filming yourself driving recklessly? Yes, Your Honor, for my Instagram. My followers like watching me race other cars and do stunts. I never posted the videos where I hit things or got arrested, obviously. Harrison put his head in his hands. His son wasn't just a repeat offender who'd been buying judicial protection. He was also creating evidence of his crimes and posting it online for entertainment. Your Honor, Harrison said quietly, I owe you an apology. I came here thinking this was a minor incident that had been blown out of proportion. I tried to have you removed because I assumed Marcus was being treated unfairly. I had no idea about his arrest history or about Judge Richardson's inappropriate dismissals. Mr. Whitmore, why did you think Judge Richardson would be more appropriate for your son's case? Because my attorney told me Judge Richardson was more understanding about cases involving young people from prominent families. I thought that meant he was compassionate, not that he was corrupt. I looked at both of them and I said, I don't know what to say, but I do know this. If your father, who tried to manipulate the judicial system to protect his son, only to discover that his son had already been manipulating it behind his back. A young man who'd been committing serious crimes while lying to his family and bribing judges to avoid consequences. Marcus, you've admitted to me that you've been arrested 7 times, including this incident, for driving-related offenses. You've admitted that previous charges were dismissed after political contributions to Judge Richardson's campaign. You've admitted that you've been creating social media content that shows you driving recklessly. Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Whitmore, You attempted to have me removed from this case because you believed I wouldn't give your son appropriate consideration based on your family's community standing. Harrison nodded shamefully. Yes, Your Honor, I was wrong to do that. Both of you have shown disrespect for the legal system in different ways. Marcus, you've been committing crimes and buying your way out of consequences. Mr. Whitmore, you've been trying to use your wealth and influence to manipulate judicial assignments. I looked at the case file again. But Marcus, you've also just demonstrated more honesty in the last 10 minutes than you've shown in the previous year. You've admitted your crimes, acknowledged the dangers you've created, and expressed willingness to face real consequences. Yes, Your Honor, I'm tired of lying about it. Marcus, I'm sentencing you to 6 months in county jail, 2 years probation, community service at Rhode Island Hospital's trauma unit, where you'll see the consequences of reckless driving, mandatory alcohol treatment, and permanent revocation of your driving privileges until age 25. Harrison looked up in shock. Your Honor, isn't that severe for an 18-year-old? Mr. Whitmore, this is actually the 7th offense, not the first. If Judge Richardson had imposed appropriate sentences for your son's previous arrests, Marcus might have learned to stop endangering public safety before reaching this point. I continued, Marcus, you also forfeit the Maserati, which will be sold, and the proceeds donated to organizations that support victims of reckless driving accidents. I understand, Your Honor. Thank you for giving me a chance to tell the truth. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Your Honor, what happens to Judge Richardson? Mr. Whitmore, that's not within my jurisdiction, but I will be forwarding information about this case to the State Judicial Conduct Board for investigation into judicial misconduct. 3 weeks later, I received a letter from Marcus, written from county jail. Judge Caprio, he wrote, I wanted to thank you for not letting my father replace you with Judge Richardson. If that had happened, I probably would have kept lying, kept driving recklessly, and eventually killed someone. Being in jail isn't fun, but it's better than living with the knowledge that I hurt innocent people because I was too cowardly to face consequences. Working in the trauma unit showed me what happens to families when people like me decide their entertainment is more important than other people's safety. My father and I are both in therapy now, learning how to have an honest relationship instead of one based on him fixing my problems with money. I've been sober for 4 months and plan to stay that way. Harrison Whitmore sent his own letter a month later. Judge, Harrison wrote, I've spent my entire adult life believing that success meant being able to control outcomes, including legal ones. When Marcus got arrested, my first instinct was to use my influence to minimize consequences rather than help him learn from his mistakes. Your refusal to be replaced taught me that real justice doesn't accommodate wealth or status. Marcus is doing well in treatment, and we're both learning that accountability is more valuable than protection. Thank you for showing us what integrity looks like. I should have trusted the system instead of trying to manipulate it. Judge Richardson resigned 6 months later when the State Judicial Conduct Board found evidence that he dismissed dozens of cases involving wealthy defendants after receiving political contributions. His conduct was referred to federal prosecutors for investigation into possible corruption charges. The Marcus Whitmore case taught me something important about the different ways wealthy families try to corrupt the justice system. Some try to bribe judges directly. Others try to buy political influence. And some try to manipulate judicial assignments to ensure their cases go before judges who favor wealthy defendants. But corruption requires cooperation from multiple participants. Judges who show favoritism for political support, attorneys who facilitate pay-to-play arrangements, and families who believe their wealth entitles them to special treatment, all contribute to a system where justice becomes a commodity rather than a principle. Marcus Whitmore served his full 6 months and completed 2 years of probation without incident. He used his community service time to speak to high school students about the real consequences of reckless driving and how wealth can't protect you from the guilt of endangering innocent people. Harrison Whitmore ended his company's practice of making strategic political contributions to influence judicial appointments. He established the foundation for traffic safety using money that had previously been spent on political influence. The investigation into Judge Richardson revealed over 50 cases involving wealthy defendants that had been dismissed inappropriately. Several judges were forced to resign when their patterns of favoritism became public. The most important lesson from that Tuesday morning wasn't about the specific crimes Marcus had committed, but about what happens when people choose honesty over manipulation, accountability over protection, and justice over privilege. When Harrison Whitmore walked into my courtroom demanding that I be replaced, he thought he was protecting his son from an unfair system. When he walked out, he understood that he'd been enabling his son's participation in a corrupt system that was putting innocent lives at risk. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is refuse to protect them from consequences. Sometimes real protection means allowing people to face the truth about themselves. Sometimes real love means supporting someone through taking responsibility instead of making their problems disappear with money. And sometimes a father's attempt to replace a judge ends up revealing that the judge he wanted was the one who'd been enabling the problem all along. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, sometimes the best judgment is not in the book, it's in your heart. Thanks for listening, and God bless.